Welcome to this special program brought to you by the One Stop Center in Luansha as we are celebrating the 16 days of gender activism. In the studio today, I'm joined by experts from various departments of the government and local leadership in our district as we tackle this important issue. So before we start and we go in depth in what we're talking about, I would love my panel to introduce themselves.
My name's Mrs. Luase Banda. I work for Zambia Center for Communication Programs, Kwatu. Working on the USAID Stop GBV project now. I'm a program officer in Luansha.
Thank you very much.
My name is Messi Mwava, working at One Stop Center, Thompson District Hospital, as a coordinator for the project based in Luansha. I've been at Thompson Hospital for quite some time, and right now I'm the one coordinating the programs for gender-based violence. Thank you very much.
Welcome to AfroZam Radio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So gender-based violence is a very important topic, and it's something that we cannot overstate, and the negative impact that it's having on our community is huge. So today we'll be getting in depth so that people that might not know what gender-based violence is, we can discuss that and get in depth. So before, my very first question is, what is gender-based violence?
Gender-based violence is the violence that happens between male and female. It's the violence that happens between male and female, where either a man or a woman, they exercise their power to oppress the other person.
Where is gender-based violence usually common? Is it with men or is it with women?
The most affected people are women and girls, and the most perpetrators are male.
Okay.
It can happen in a home, maybe in a social setting, or between intimate partners. So it happens even in colleges. Students experience gender-based violence from the opposite sex.
What do you think is the major cause of gender-based violence? Why are people harming each other? Like from the work that you're doing, what do you think is the reason why we are seeing the rise in the number of cases?
What happens is that it happens because the other one has more power over the other person. So they are able to exercise their power to oppress the other person or attack the other person.
Okay, so what are the types of gender-based violence?
We are talking about the types of gender-based violence. Gender-based violence includes child abuse, and this includes neglect of children, the physical injuries, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. We also have what we call emotional abuse. It's a pattern of degrading or humiliating conduct towards a person, including insults or name-calling. I'll give an example in my typical language. Limbi panganda mwadi kala mwaikadela fyo kuito mwana wechipuba fusek fumapa udichipuba tapadi ofoka chita. It's a form of degrading someone. Mwadi musula kare no mwini akaisula. So fionse fefikale ngo mwana akabe emotionally disturbed, upset, and all those things. Now progress from life ya kuteti pabe. And then we also have the socio-economic abuse. This is the denial of access to education or paid work, mainly to women. Kula benchita shimo isha akwebati bashtata bamana kwati na mayo tete abombe nchito shimo, and then bakalalanda tao panturi mwanakashi tete bakuingishe nchito ya msangoyo. But ninshibonze tulifimo fine, maybe that person has even had gone to college, had quite a skill to do that particular work, which can also be done by a man and a woman. So equal rights in everything, whether inchito inshi, but tatureranda pama equal rights ya mungandaya kwebati yo abalume basangu kaba kashina bakashabalume. That is very different.
Okay, that is interesting. So now let's talk about the organizations that you're coming from. One Stop Center. Yes. What work are you doing in this district, and how can people reach some of the services that you have to offer?
One Stop Center, which is located at Thompson Hospital, we are mandated to provide help and services to the survivors of gender-based violence. And the following are the services being offered at the one-stop center. Inepano Neolelanda, as earlier announced, I'm Mercy Mwaba, and always found at the same offices. We provide medical/clinical services, meaning the survivors are attended to by us, the qualified health personnel, and the services offered are tailored towards the individual's or survivor's needs, meaning imwe obwafya mwaisa nabo ng'omuntu uchenewe whether mwana bakulu baume banakashi tuwafuirisha okulingana n'obwafya mukwete. Then Fimbiofo Tuchita psychosocial care and support, meaning there is continuous counseling. Survivors are taken through counseling to allow recovery from what they went through. Healing of moral and psychological wounds created by periods of violence, humiliation, stress, and denial of the most basic human rights. So omwana nga bamuleta kulya nangu fyo omuntu uli onso uchenekwe. Mukati, physically, tulabafuirisha munchiresha pusana. Kuba chita kanso okulingana n'obwafya akwete. Pakutira tuwafuirisha ko uli omuntu ukuchita hiyo. And then there's a service which the paralegal office provides. We as one-stop center tuwalikwata office ya ifyo. We provide information to community members seeking legal advice as well as survivors of GBV. Nama court cases yuku yachita process ni ne office ya fuidisha.
So meaning umuntu ngana kwata issue nice one-stop center to seek for help. You give them free legal aid to ensure that mirandu shiranga kuya koti they are seen through to the end.
Emkwai kulingana nefyo banjipusha. The service is very, very free. There are no payments made. So kulaba advice to payla as a one-stop center working under the paralegal office. Pakutira tuwaangushe fintu tuwafurisha konokushita process imilandu pakutira shaya ku court and the culprit is prosecuted
and apprehended.
Yes.
Let us talk about Kwatu. Briefly tell us some of the services that you are offering as Kwatu here in Lwansha District, and how can people access your services?
For us, we are working together with Ministry of Health through the One-Stop Center. So ZCCP Kwatu offers technical support to the One-Stop Center. And then in the communities, we have community activists that conduct community conversation to sensitize the community on the types of gender-based violence, where they can access services, and in case there is violence happening and somebody wants to report, there are toll-free lines that we use because we are not working alone. We are working with the Lifeline, Shout Zambia. We are working also with the VIAMO. We are also working with FHI 360. Those are some of our partners. So for Lifeline, for children to report cases affecting children, GBV cases affecting children, you call 116. It's a toll-free line. And then you also call 933 for adults reporting GBV cases. So we have community activists that are working in the community to sensitize and engage the community into conversation. Then we have also a program for the boys, which is coaching boys into men. We are trying to prevent gender-based violence, to bring out men that will be responsible, that will respect women and even themselves, so that we build relationships that are healthy in the community.
When you talk about building men that are responsible men, how are you recruiting the said young men? Where are you finding them? We
go into the communities and then we use the coaches to do the recruitment. So our target audience is 10 to 14 for coaching boys into men. And then they go through a process. There are about 12 cards that we use. It talks of abusive language, abuse using the media, and how they can prevent that.
Okay. So now we are currently in the 16 days of gender activism. Can we break it down for our viewers and our listeners? What is the significance of this period that we are in?
The 16 days of gender gender-based
Violence
violence. Yes, it's an international campaign that takes place annually from the 25th of November, and it's called the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women, and it goes on up to 10th December, which is also becomes a International Human Rights Day. So this campaign aims to create awareness about how people can take action against gender-based violence, which affects women and girls mostly, because the most affected are women and girls. So it's commemorated worldwide. Yeah? And this day of activism, it started in 1991 at the Women's Global Leadership Institute. And it has since grown into a global movement, which involves thousands of organizations and activists in over about 190 countries. So during this period, many participate to sensitize the community, how we can prevent gender-based violence, and if there are such cases, even during this period, they are reported to the one-stop center. And
so what are some of the activities that you've got planned during this commemoration here in Luanshya district?
Some of the activities that we do is that we are going to do community sensitization with the different organizations. We do community conversations, and then we also have dramas, activities in the communities to reach out to the community and giving out information on GBV, where to report, and also encourage people to report these cases, because we do not only work alone, we also work with the police victim support unit.
Okay. So now when we come to the one-stop center, from the work that you've been doing on the ground, are we seeing an increase or a decrease in the number of GBV cases that are being reported?
Looking at the work that we do, in other areas there's a decrease because of the sensitization that is going on. But in other areas, we are seeing a number of cases, and that's where we focus more, because we would like them to know what GBV is and how we can prevent it.
What is the most common form of GBV that is reported?
Sexual assault and physical assault, the two are very common.
I just want to find out this. If I live in a community, is it my prerogative as a member of the community? Can I report such a case on behalf of a child, seeing that one-stop center victim support unit? Is it also the responsibility of community members to take up that responsibility and report cases once they are noted?
Yes, it is the responsibility of the community members as well. That's why we do the sensitization. So, ngabamonat paneba, there are issues concerning abakashina balume, even the way abana babasongilamu. They have a right to report to one-stop center or use the toll-free numbers that Mrs. Luwase mentioned.
Okay.
Yes.
What are the consequences of GBV?
There are a number of health, psychological and social consequences to the survivor of gender-based violence. This includes injury, disability. Then they end up amputating your arm, your leg. That's a disability in the end. There is also death. Then STIs and HIV/AIDS, miscarriages, unsafe abortions, depression. For the unsafe abortions, it happens mostly in young ones.
So unsafe abortion is also a form of GBV?
It comes from GBV, gender-based violence.
Okay.
Bali in a relationship. Akana, nimbi alebonfiafe na mashiwe ayabi, and then maybe the lady or girl will end up aborting. Afunyefe illegally by use of ifintu pusana. Bambabonfiat matambula, katapa, harmful drugs. They don't even know what to do. In the end, ninshinga chitika nimfwa. Yes.
I just wanted to add.
Please do.
Okay, when we are looking at also the consequences, there is also the mental health also. One of the consequences is also mental health, because the victim will suffer mentally, as she has already alluded, that is psychological. So it has a psychological effect. Even when somebody hits you, maybe they hit you on the head, there's some mental effects. So
sometimes it even affects your confidence and your self-worth in society.
Yes, you lose self-esteem.
Okay, that is important. But I want to find out from the perpetrator side, what do you think is causing people to be violent, especially against women and girls? Why do you think men still, despite all the sensitization that has been done, but some men still feel the need to be violent towards women and girls? What do you think is causing that?
I think most of the time why men continue to do that despite the sensitization, some of these people, it's lack of education. They don't have information on what gender-based violence is and its effects. So if a person is knowledgeable about gender-based violence, they will be able to refrain themselves, because there is also the law that will get involved in these cases. So meaning the law is coming to visit you, and what follows there, I'm sure the VSU
will enlighten us more on that.
Enlighten us more.
What measures can individuals, communities, and governments take to prevent GBV? Like, what can we do from a community standpoint?
I think through these sensitization meetings, if we engage the local leaders to be part and parcel of fighting this gender-based violence, it will help the community, that it's not a problem only for one person, but a problem yavonse bali mu community. Nga bangu maine kunganda, chala chita affect n'abana, n'aba neighbor bonse. Bantu bakulanda ngulukako. This is what is happening. So you get affected, because all of us, we want to live a good and healthy life. So through sensitization, we are able to educate people so that they are aware, and then what happens to your neighbor, it's also your concern. We want to live in a healthy community.
How can men and boys be involved in addressing GBV? Like, how can men that are not already on the bandwagon get involved in ensuring that these messages are spread out there and we see a reduction in the cases and the occurrence of such things?
With the current activities, when we are doing community sensitization, we invite both male and female. Then we have also engaged these small boys who are being groomed. We are using sports as a method of reaching out with messages of GBV, so that as they are growing, they are already aware of this. So as they grow, they will grow up to be responsible, caring, and loving men.
What steps can we take to change society's attitude towards GBV? Apart from what we are already doing, what other things do you think we can implement as a community in all to ensure that everybody, this message against gender-based violence reaches everyone and nobody is left behind?
I think we need to increase reaching out not only to the local communities, but even also in working places, that these messages should reach out to community services and also engage the private sector to be part and parcel of fighting gender-based violence. Because if we all get involved, we put our resources together, we'll be able to reach out to the masses, because this also requires finances.
Yes.
Can I also comment?
Please do.
Aba umeringi bamwana kwati, when a woman reports anything to do with issues of gender-based violence, kube kata, and they will be locked up and finally prosecuted. But it's not like that. There are situations when we'll just bring them on board and then talk to them. Maybe they just need counseling. Wachitana find out ninshi baluira dionse, ninshi bachitira mi street obo bekala nabo. And then gaba mieba mwaekala chapa mwana vena. Maybe you can try to help them in a way to solve some of the problems so that tafire weke shapu ifya msango. And ukuba konkomesha fe to say that it's not always that omwaume balamukaka kulolesha konse kubiri kumbali and see where is the problem coming from and then cancel all of them at the same time. Thank you.
What advice?
And
Please
also the norms, where we are coming from, because even the background, eko tufuma, efe batufunda.
Ntambi.
Intambi nga batufunda, ati nga bakuma ku bedroom, na ufimba pamutwe, nga wafuma pansi takuli ukulanda tona kutakwali amalight, especially now.
Takwali amalight na
ibuntula. Meanwhile, you were being abused, you were beaten. So these are also contributing factors to gender-based violence.
But what if the woman is also just provocative? You know, there are those women who are just provocative. That's
why I said in the first place, we need to call them together, husband and wife, and sit down with them, find out where the problem is coming from, and try to cancel them. Ngamwabaleta bonse kutumwakwata kwa idea tawo kulefu masano bwafya nuko.
And then you address that issue.
Concentrate. Yes,
okay. Yeah. What advice would you give someone experiencing GBV but afraid to speak out?
We encourage them to speak out.
What protections are there for people that speak out? Because in Monmokurabati, feeling or Alanda or Isasalanda, Kuba one stop center Monto. Asalanda, no, me, Okonde, Karawa, Anti, Tawansunga, Wino. Gamwabeta, they will be like, okay, of watch, if I'm going to they might chase that person from where they are being kept, or the treatment might become worse. What safeguards are there to ensure that when people speak out, they are not ill-treated because of them coming out?
Thank you very much. Ili nginga tuwapokea messages ya ifyo, tuleshwa nishira ya kulandila mo. And then if we also want to protect that person who brought the information. And then further, tulabe bushe, ngachako batu wadubwelele kunganda, mafia nshie ngabako. So na ifwe palwes tuleshwe fya kuipusha. And then not only that, we have a place where we call a safe home. Ngafyachira muchipimo, tulamufunya po yo muntu pangandapo. Nokumutualo kwa kuine kunchende, and then investigate further. Tuafwa nenchende imbi, okwengaya, we link that person, kuliba social welfare and other non-governmental organizations that come in to help us.
You earlier talked about the issue of our norms. How do traditional gender roles and expectations contribute to the normalization of GBVs in certain communities?
When we look at, these gender roles, they are ascribed to us as we are born. A certain society has its own norms, how they need to conduct themselves. So there are certain norms that are not good, right? There are certain norms that says, when your husband is speaking, you don't have to speak. Even when the language that is coming out is very offensive. So you are not supposed to speak. So with that, as a victim, you end up bottling things. And at one time, that's when you find that a woman who rise up has gone to boil cooking oil because she's not allowed to speak. And then they tell you whatever happens in bedroom
should remain there.
It should if you share muliamwine.
Yeah.
So takuli ukulanda. Pantu bala kutamfye kuchupu. So if you're in bedroom
how has modernization and urbanization influenced GBV trends in Zambia? The more modern we become, has it become worse, or has the occurrence of GBV reduced? From people, you are the experts, you are the people that are dealing with these things. How are we seeing the trends? Are we winning or are we losing against the fight against gender-based violence?
Ngatuwa sambirira sana, tekwebati fiala chita affect our way of living. Umwana kashi wa mchinshi. Wa msalula, but that's not what we want in society. So, abantu kusambirira, it will help us because bakeshiba what GBV is, where to report, and what to report, even how to handle the same issues.
Okay.
Yes.
In your opinion, how does the healthcare system address the immediate and long-term needs of GBV survivors? Are there any shortcomings in the services that you are offering as people that are dealing with these people that are going through these things?
I would say, our services, yes, as one-stop centers throughout the country. We are the best. I wouldn't say we have issues or problems in handling our clients or even resolving issues that are coming to our centers.
Okay. What challenges do your shelters of safe spaces for GB survivors face in terms of funding, accessibility, and capacity?
Accessing the place is very easy, but we have a lot of challenges. Feeding is a problem. Like the safe home which is in Luansha, the 2 safe homes that are in Luansha, they are supported by Thomson Hospital. And what we have at Thomson is what we feed them with. We've tried to go out to other people so that they can be helping us, but there are very, very few who come on board to help, and once in a while. And what they give to us is very little. Nalalanda nakulubalirwa ku maskulu. You know, these are children who are supposed to get back into school. So tulabafuaira maskulu, and then we go around begging for if you are school fiance, the school bags, uniforms, shoes, and everything. So people help us. And it's not all the time that they will come out to say, not kwatefi. Bala tuwe limbi tukalolele. They will come back later at a later stage. But we are really struggling.
Okay.
Thank you.
How effective are current educational programs in teaching young people about consent, healthy relationships, and preventing GBV?
How effective are they?
Yes, the current educational programs and in teaching young people about consent, healthy relationships, and preventing GBV. Earlier on, we talked about sexual abuse as one form of GBV. But then there is this notion where because the women don't need to give consent. Men can have a way with women because girlfriend. Are we teaching women on the importance of consent? And are we teaching men that they need to get consent from the woman before they do anything with her?
Yes, we are trying, but ichupo fyofo chava. Ngatapali ukumfwana in a marriage, proper communication. Fiance fikalavi patafia kalenda bwino. So even when you have to prepare the other person, lelo ni finefi, therefore if you are msangofi, you need to communicate with your partner. Not furukutu and everything goes on. It shouldn't be like that. Even the girls in schools, tulabeba. At your age, abstain from such activities. Not until mwakula, mwana college, mwapuisha, mwaupwa in a normal way, in a very good way. Even when you start, they should be communicating between iwe na vena move. Minus that, you live a reckless life and things will not be good for you.
And just to add on, we also have peer educators.
Yes.
That have been trained, that reach out to the adolescent with information on HIV and the connection between HIV and GBV. So they go out into the schools. We are working. We got permission from the Ministry of Education, and the letters have gone through even as far as depths. So even when our peer educators go to those schools, they are given time to talk to the girls, and they are able to open up and engage into very fruitful discussions. Just as she said, that the emphasis is on abstinence.
Should GBV awareness and prevention be incorporated into school curriculum? If yes, how can it be done effectively?
It should be incorporated into STEM because there was an agreement, I think there was, is it Eastern, Southern, some years back, where they agreed that this should be part of the curriculum for schools. So as we are working, even as a non-government organization, the government, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Community Development and Social Welfare, they are part of that group that is engaged to make sure that this information reaches even to the young people.
Okay. I just want to find out this. What is the link between economic dependency and GBV, particularly in situations where survivors feel trapped due to financial constraints? Is there a link?
On economic
dependency and GBV. Yeah. Let's say they depend on their husbands. Do we see a rise on people who are not economically independent when it comes to being victims of GBV compared to those that can take care of themselves? Because women are staying in relationships because tabomba takwata source of income life.
What is happening now? Yes, I think way back it was the dependence was more on men by the women. But even when you move in the streets of Luanshya, you find most of women are selling either chihuahua, vareshtisha to support their family. I think that notion is slowly coming out of our women. They want to be part and parcel to contribute because they've seen that if I'm not capacitated financially, it means I will be a slave to this gentleman because he shows without me, you cannot be where you are. So that's what happens. So, and then there are also women's clubs that have come in place where women are linked. When they go to the one-stop center, if they see that this person needs economic empowerment, they will be linked to those women's clubs. Others, they do chilimba, village banking, as one of the strategies that you use to empower women.
So in short, economic empowerment for women helps reduce GBV in our communities?
It does.
Okay. What role does unemployment or economic stress play in increasing GBV cases amongst men? Is there a correlation between because sometimes we see men ngabaruse nchito tawakwete fya kuchita baingira mu depression ambokulano sana and then are frustrated and then awekera kunganda nishina bakolo bari frustrated during the day bafumishe kushi pawakashina bano bashite kunganda. Is there a correlation between men that are economically unstable and the rise in GBV?
Yes, it's there.
Okay.
Nde sumina kulingana na formulanda. When a man is not in employment or doing anything, bali kala fye kunganda bambibuna ngani bulenga tapabo winga kano kwate chakuchita. No kuya kumabala or doing some other piece jobs somewhere. Ninshwala bako bwino nomba waya waisa na okolwa then yabakashi the little that she made per market waisa na mkumu ibila walete fiongo, there is no order in a home, so kwambo okulwa. So that brings a problem within a home. But aba omiabe nenga bale ichitafye kuba empowered how? In so many ways, different ways. Then chitofye isungo muntu. Ya kweba tiari ingira ku muntu no. Even doing their own things. Ba relate ko fya skills. Ngata wako ite or maybe wale bomba ko nchito imbi. You can switch to something else. Wakwata ko skill in a different area so that ule yafundisha na yo munipalo.
In recent
and also in the not only men but also women can also abuse men.
Yes.
When a husband loses a job,
then
he must do the house chores.
Bafure bambo kuwasha matebera.
Bafure batambo kuwasha matebera kusamfye mbale nisange na mwinji pikiro ubwadi. So that's what happens if a man loses a job. A woman can use that opportunity to abuse. In case in the past you were not being given money, this is the time now when nanomba ala chimona.
Okay. How has social media and technology impacted GBV, particularly in terms of cyberbullying, revenge pornography, and harassment? Because I feel like revenge pornography is also a form of GBV. People, when they're in a relationship and things are going well, because of technology and my devices, I talk about but that is, there is consent, you've sent it for that person to sing. What does a man do? Or I man what chansha to Ramon, and I posted my pictures nakwata, and I posted my videos nakwata. Are we seeing a rise in this? Where people are using the internet and technology to abuse and bully other people?
Yes, we are seeing that. We are seeing a rise in such issues. Nomba, if tuinga temwafyo kulanda pano padi inonshta. We should avoid such things because ya mama relationships. Tayaba stable ngifye. Mwalekana and then somebody starts posting all those things. Once ever video ya post if ya mnakono.
Yes.
But in other cases, one will be quiet, touch the if you want, but the other part will be posting, which should not be the case. Why are they doing that? Who is saving?
What do you think is the responsibility for media outlets like ours in shaping public perception of GBV, and how can they avoid victim blaming narratives?
Can you explain, Phil?
Like, what is the responsibility for people like us who are in the media? What is our responsibility in shaping the perception of GBV? Because sometimes we, the people in the media, can run narratives where, like the example that I was giving you, we blame the victim depending on how we are reporting and the type of information that we are disseminating out there. Kula wefine ngide mwana isa pano pa radio. Ndiba program ya Ntipa Breakfast Show. Ndewa abantu abakutera. Na mwine bana mayo na muchibale myumina. So what am I doing? The information I'm putting out there is we are justifying the wrongs of other people, blaming the victim.
Which you should not do. It shouldn't be like that, because naimo whenever media, the way you collect some of the information which you publicize, which you publish, taiba in the right manner. Because sometimes mwamfoko fe ka story akabo fi pano no fi, then naimo mwabika mwe no. But it's better mwaya, you find out more, investigate further before you publish the same story. Don't put the blame on anyone because you don't know
the full picture.
You haven't met the two and they heard the two sides of the story. You haven't even made an effort to cancel them. So mwachitana advise and don't blame any of the two.
Okay.
And that's what they do in counseling. Even when a survivor comes, how nabamchita rape or nabachita difa umwana. So it's not your fault. And sometimes people blame a survivor. Nishuafwele walaenda nchitanchi wafikira uchi kupanganda ni fault yobe. That's not right. You don't blame anybody because you don't know which day is your unfortunate day. You were moving innocently, somebody comes and just grabs you and rapes you. So we don't blame because that doesn't help the survivor to recover.
Okay. What are some of the psychological barriers survivors face in seeking help, and how can we address them sensitively?
The barriers for survivor. You know, it's very difficult to open up. Ganalanda vakanseka. Gana chitefi balambo kumbwenamo. Chonso cho wachitani bali abali vekete. Bali abali bachitira abuse. Bala bo mali onsaba lumebabo. Chipu babali shishita. Eba bana problem. You know, so they'll keep quiet. But if we nga abantu abaleta ngata babantu. Tufule tu abaleta chapa mo ko wachita embrace. Tuamona mafia nshibale kwata and then advise them appropriately so that they can open up, even counsel further.
When you look at our country, Zambia, what lessons can we learn from other countries in addressing GBV effectively?
What we learn from Ayama countries, Zambia, we learn that even as Zambia, the victim support unit has been put in place as one of the areas where we can help to combat GBV. So that's what we are learning. They involve the legal people, they involve the police to be part and parcel, and every other discipline, because to fight this GBV, you cannot fight it alone. That's why there is Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, all different disciplines. You bring them on board in order to fight GBV. So nobody should be left behind. Even our local traditional leaders, we have them spearheading and being GBV champions in different communities in the villages, and all those places are reached out, and our traditional leaders are part and parcel of this fight.
Okay. So as we are coming to the end of our discussion, and hopefully we're going to have more discussions, because I don't think we've exhausted everything that we can say about GBV, and the sensitization should surely continue, and it should be everybody's responsibility to take part in this fight against this very dangerous vice. How can individuals, beyond just policymakers or organizations, contribute to dismantling the system that enables GBV? How can individuals, beyond just policymakers and NGOs, contribute to dismantling the systems that enable GBV to take place in our communities?
Can you explain further?
So ngafira tuachiranda where we said there are certain things that make GBV possible. Sometimes it's economic hardship. We've talked about traditional roles and gender roles that have been assigned. So how can we as individuals, away from what you're doing, the sensitization, you as NGOs and the government, the various departments of government that are charged with handling these issues, how can individuals in our communities help in dismantling these things that enable GBV to go unnoticed in our communities?
Living in the communities, we should talk about it. Open discussions should be there amongst ourselves within the communities. Then we are going to help each other and speak good things. Not to condemn or
Okay.
And also, when you are as an individual, community, nifulenga na ninkwata obwafi na yakuli banebe yo banachita trust ninkwata problem malanga fukakoshani, you involve other people, then they will be able to advise and so forth. That would be able to help. We have, even in a village setting, twalikwata ba headman nini nkwato bwafi munganda nchirikala kuyo baraishi baifya kuchita, because those are the leaders that we have. We have councillors like in our town in Luansha. They are supposed to be part and parcel, get involved, get consent of the people that put them into power.
Okay.
Even our members of parliament are supposed to be involved. We reach out to them. This community, a problem is affecting us health-wise. So how can you help us? So they will be able to champion, even to change their policies to suit what the community needs.
Okay, so as we are coming to the end of our discussion, I just want you to give me your concluding remarks before we close. I'll start with you.
Twatotela sana kuli bonse abachila tumfwa na pa kwata opportunity ya kuba ku radio station so that we speak about some of these issues. Ayale tukuma muchalo chesu. Let's unite as women. Let's also take care of our girls and boys within our communities so that we help in fighting gender-based violence. Let's unite as one. Thank you very much.
Your concluding remarks, Mom.
My conclusion is twatotela sana kuli bonse abale tukutika. I'm not Bemba, ndi wakuchipata, so
but at least you're audible.
So twamitotela sana ama issues ya GBV yalaleta ubwafya pamayanda abana balachita skata bafuma panganda nga batata na bamayo balelwa. Our children end up being in my streets. So I would urge everyone abaletumfwa tonse tube part and parcel of fighting gender-based violence. Nangwili pali baneba kuskulu munganda tufule twawafwana ama numbers za kubomfya ni 116 ngamule chita report ama cases ya GBV yabana na 933. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to all our listeners and all our viewers on our YouTube and our Facebook channels. This has been a special edition of People and Power. As we celebrate the 16 years of gender-based violence activism. I hope the information that has been shared will go a long way, and I'm encouraging each and every one of us to play our part in ensuring that we reduce the frequency of gender-based violence and we report cases of gender-based violence that we see in our communities. Until the next time, my name is Kusantan Tangi Chilebe. Keep listening to Afrozam Radio, moving with time and technology.